The next NFC team I want to talk about, and this kind of goes hand in hand, is the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. So both in similar situations, sitting at Detroit is sitting at 6-7, Green Bay sitting at 5-8, but they do play each other the last game of the season. Let's talk about Detroit first. Not as tough of a schedule, not even close as tough a schedule to Seattle. This week they play the Jets, which is tough, but then they play the Panthers, the Bears, and then finish it off the Green Bay Packers. How do you feel about the Lions' playoff chances?
Obviously, I feel better about them than the Seahawks. What does scare me is three of those last four on the road. Jets are a really tough one, obviously, this week, and we've seen the Panthers. They're also playing for something too. I could see them making it. I give them a better chance than the Seahawks. I'm interested I don't know if you know, but if it comes down to that last game, like I say, Detroit wins 3, and let's say Green Bay has won all theirs going up to that point. Is that last game deciding? Because it's Green Bay's technically a game behind them in the standings. But like for example, Green Bay wins that last game, though, they would be tied in division and conference in theory. And then I guess that goes to, I don't know where the tiebreaker goes from there.
I think if they tie, I think the Lions, if Green Bay was to beat Detroit and they would have an actual tie, I believe the Lions would make it, because I think it goes to common opponents in your division. And at least so far, the Lions have beaten the Vikings once and lost to them once, and they've beaten the Bears once. So in this hypothetical scenario, they've beaten the Bears again. That means that, actually, what has Green Bay done? Because they lost to the Vikings once, and they've already beaten the Bears twice, right? Yeah, they've beaten the Bears twice, I think.
The Bears twice.
So, okay, then I actually don't know what would happen. Maybe it goes to common opponents in the conference.
I have no clue.
But in that case, I think maybe Green Bay would have it, because they beat the Cowboys and Detroit lost to Dallas. They both lost to Philly. Did y'all play Seattle this year?
We have not played Seattle.
Okay, what about the Panthers? Did y'all play the Panthers?
I don't think so. I'll have to double check.
Okay, then it looks like if it's common. Wait, did y'all play the Giants? Y'all played y'all lost to the Giants.
No, we lost to the Giants.
They beat the Giants.
And they beat the Giants.
But y'all beat the Cowboys, and they lost to the Cowboys. So then I don't know. I don't know all the NFL tiebreakers.
I don't know either. Because then do you go to AFC?
Did y'all play
AFC common opponents? We lost to Washington.
They beat Washington. So then I think maybe it goes to Detroit.
They might probably have the advantage there.
So yeah, I don't know. The tiebreakers get real complicated there. I might even have it wrong on the order. I don't know if common divisional opponents is the next one, but regardless, yeah. So the Lions could have a potential good case. I would say there's a realistic chance they could make it, but the problem is they don't have the fate in their own hands, because they are, like you said, they got to play the Green Bay Packers, and that could decide some things. And then they're also still behind Washington. They're behind the Giants. They got to contend with Seattle. Even Carolina, Carolina's 5-8. There's a possibility they could potentially make it in as a wild card team if they were to win out. So yeah, it could be tough for the Lions. But let's talk about the Packers now. Packers, a little bit tougher of a schedule than Detroit. Y'all play the Rams this week, play the Dolphins the week after, then the Vikings, then the Lions. And we just sort of already just explored the tiebreaker scenarios. But how do you feel about your Green Bay Packers' potential to possibly make the playoffs?
I feel... So in regards to making the playoffs, not very confident, just because, like we just mentioned, a lot has to happen. Detroit probably has to drop a game, and we just talked their schedule, probably not likely. On top of the fact that the Washington and the Giants, we lost them in the season, so we definitely lost the head-to-head tiebreaker, and they're still ahead of us, so we have to have things happen there. In regards to maybe winning out and at least giving ourselves a shot, I mean, the only game that really scares me, that I'm really concerned about, would be that Miami game on Christmas, just because, Miami's very good, and who knows how we'll be able to handle, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. And obviously Minnesota does scare me too. Those are the two games that are obviously big on my, and obviously you have to win Detroit at the end, but I feel a little more confident against Detroit, at Lambeau at the end of the year. So I'm not scared about that one. So I would say, we talked about Detroit and Seattle. As much as I love my Packers, I think if I had to put gun to my head, had to put money on it, I would say Detroit would be my, out of the three, most favorite to go in, then Green Bay, then Seattle. It's a very close 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But mainly because of the two tough opponents is why I put the Packers lower.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think really the indicator of Green Bay's motivation, I think, is going to be that Miami game. If they can win that Miami game, anything's kind of possible from that point. Because then I think even like assuming they beat the Rams as well. If they beat the Rams and then Miami,
yes,
the Packers are riding a 3-game win streak. And they did have their bye week recently, so they're a little bit more rested up, and that could put even more pressure on Detroit too. Like they can't drop one, because if they do, that could lose the tiebreakers and things could get dicey. So if Green Bay wins Miami, then I would say if they beat Miami, they instantly become my favorite out of those 3 NFC teams to make a playoff spot. Because if they're beating Miami, I feel confident they could. Y'all could beat Minnesota, and then if y'all have won those 3 straight games. Well, I guess technically 4 straight games at that point, I would expect y'all to beat Detroit in Lambeau on the final game of the year for a potential playoff spot. Like Aaron Rodgers in that kind of environment, I'm not betting against him.
I mean, it's happened way too many times. I mean, the year he broke his collarbone against the Bears back when Jay Cutler was the quarterback. So, yeah, I wouldn't be. But yes, I would say yes. The Miami game is key. Also, granted that we win. Yeah. This is all granting that we take care of business on Monday, because that could easily very well not happen.
Right. And I mean, even if Detroit was to drop one of these games, that could incentivize this team even more, because that would give them a tiebreaker opportunity.